Hello everybody and welcome to the Republic of Play podcast episode 3. My name is Darren, I'm be one of your hosts and I'm joined by my good friend Toby.
Hello everyone.
So Toby, episode 3. They didn't think we'd make it this far.
Nobody believed in us, but here we are.
Here we are indeed. And we're just going to get straight into the news. We have our news segments that we go kind of run through. Then we're going to talk noteworthy releases that come out and then what we've been playing. And essentially, if you write in, you can now go to our Discord and go to the podcast submissions channel. And then just like drop any questions, comments, concerns, topics, ideas, things that you might want to see or hear from us. Or if something pops up in the week and you think, oh, you know what? I'd love to hear what Toby has to say about that. Then you just
says absolutely nobody.
I mean, it's on everyone's mind. You just go drop us a question or whatever there, and it kind of helps. It helps keep the flow of the conversation going, and that way we get to interact a bit more. It's actually interesting. Some people said like we should do this on Twitch so we could interact with Twitch chat and stuff, and that's kind of a nice idea. But I would rather at least try to do it in a podcast form where people write in, and that way we just use their questions. It would be the exact same as being live, because if we're talking about something and someone says, oh, what do you think of this? There's no reason we couldn't have just got that before. So it might be interesting if you guys can mobilize and write in some comments and stuff like that, and we'll integrate them in the show. We have a few.
There's a fair bit of stuff this week.
Yeah. And we have a few that can actually that have been written in that we can add to some of the stories. Some people write in stuff to do with Total War and Paradox and stuff, but unless something relevant happens, I'm just saving those in a separate doc until stuff comes up. People are talking about Total War Troy to me quite a bit, and we have loads of questions regarding that, but until something pops up for the Total War Troy news, we're going to leave it till then.
The thing is, we could both just ramble about Total War for hours, but it's kind of a bit pointless unless there's something topical.
Exactly. So let's get to the news. Right, so the first one is the Half-Life Alyx gameplay that came out. They've released 3 videos now over on Valve's channel. 3 separate, about almost 10-minute gameplay segments from the game. It looks phenomenal. I don't have a VR headset. It's obviously on the Valve Index, but it's on everything else as well, I believe. That's VR capable on Steam. And you're much more savvy and familiar with the Half-Life. The Half-Life,
as it is known by fans like yourself.
Tell me about it. We just watched it a little bit, in your living room just now. The 3rd video just came out recently, and it does look phenomenal. I mean, like the thing that stood out to me the most is when they pick up a grenade or something, and he or she, I don't know, I think it's a female lead character actually, leans her hand over like this kind of crevice in a building, like this hole, and just drops it down, like the way, like it's hard to describe through audio, but pushes her arm out physically and just drops the grenade, lets her hand loose. Grenade falls down, blows up at the bottom of this building and kills people. But that's just stuff you can't really do in a normal first-person shooter. Like you'd have to like try to somehow lean over, aim down, and then like do your traditional pull, trigger, drop it kind of thing. It just doesn't really typically work as well. And so it's just that like fluid motion. And then you were saying as well, like the cover, the way they just pull everything around you seems to be, obviously Valve is known for their physics-based stuff. Physics-based, you just open doors, use that as cover and stuff like that. It looks really impressive.
Oh, it looks amazing. As you said, I'm obviously a lot more Half-Life savvy. I've played all the games when I was much younger and kept up to date since then. And this just looks absolutely amazing. I mean, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. I mean, the VR stuff looks incredible, as we discussed. Bits where she was running up to a bit of a random car, and then a combine was shooting at her, and she pulled the door, but a door open at the car door, and used that as cover. She was knocking holes in glass and then firing through glass and manipulating things through there, and there seemed so much interactivity. And obviously, although we've seen a few bits and bobs before, this was the first time they really dumped a lot of the game in us, a lot of the things. We saw the hacking mechanics that was all sort of 3D movement based system and gun upgrades and
so the 3D movement system, it looks like that there's multiple ways to traverse the terrain, right? So typically in these types of games, obviously you can't really move around that much because you're in a VR space. You can kind of take a few steps forward, maybe back, left, right, and so on. But different games do these things differently on how you can kind of traverse. You can kind of point and look and just teleport to different places, or you can use hand gestures to kind of move yourself through terrain. What were you seeing in terms of movement in this?
So they've got 3 different types. I'm not 100% sure on the 3. So I know they've got the traditional teleport method where you can look and teleport around. They've got, I believe, a method that a few other games use, which is where you basically grip with your handset and you pull yourself along, a bit like you're skiing. It's hard to describe, but it feels quite natural when you're actually doing it. And then the third one, I'm not sure exactly how that worked, but that looked so smooth. It might have just been using the D-pad like so using the analog sticks. It might just be doing that. I don't know, maybe because it seems so smooth. But I don't think I don't know exactly with the specifics of the 3 different movement types. But it seems like there's something for everyone. Because things with VR, no matter what you do, there is still a high chance of motion sickness for a lot of people. And what they found over the last few years is that people tend to get motion sick in different ways. So for some people, teleport doesn't work; it's too jarring for your brain. But other people, it works fine, and various other things. Oh my god, it looks fantastic! And in terms of the actual Half-Life things, stuff itself, because I think the reason so many people will be excited is Half-Life is one of the most beloved PC franchises of all time. Well, franchises ever, but primarily PC. That's where it started off. Franchises of all time, and obviously Half-Life 3 has been a meme for, of course, like 7, 8, 9, 10 years, however long it's been. Every time Valve posts anything, people are like Half-Life 3 confirmed. That's been going forever. I think what seems so good about this is although there's a lot of excitement when Alyx was announced, there was also a lot of more old school Half-Life fans disappointed, going, well, it looks like it's just going to be like a VR game that they've tacked on a bit of Half-Life stuff, and it's a bit of a rip-off, and it's not really true to the games, all that sort of things. But I think now, having seen the gameplay and seeing more information, it seems like it really is a Half-Life game first and foremost. All the systems are the same. Everything that people are familiar with face huggers and the tentacle monsters and the head crabs. Well, I said face huggers, sorry, head crabs. Any Half-Life fan would kill me for saying face huggers. The head crabs. And the combat, everything just seems so pure Half-Life. All the physics-based puzzles seem the same. The gravity gun stuff is awesome. So I think it really does feel like a pure Half-Life game that they've then used VR to make better, rather than an average VR game they've tacked on a bit of Half-Life to. And I think it looks really good.
Yeah, this is one of those. I'd love to have seen how they recorded it. I wish they would have shown how big was their room and stuff, just to see also with that, going back to the traversal, how they really were traversing around, because it just looks so fluid. Obviously, it's their video, they're presenting it. They want to show it to be the best it can be, and probably I would have to imagine won't be as smooth for everybody fluid the way they were showing it. But even if it's like even close to that, it's still extremely impressive.
The thing is, they have had a number of. This isn't the first bit of it we've seen. There have been a number of reviewers who've had hands-on time with demos of the game already, and I've seen. And although they haven't been allowed to show all of the gameplay, there's been quite a lot of footage of them actually playing it and talking about it. So, and it does seem fairly smooth. But obviously, as you said, this is Valve, heavily choreographed and everything here. So this is the best it's possibly going to be. But I have seen a lot of reviewers play demos and things, and although they couldn't show everything, they have all been hugely positive about the movement systems and the options and stuff like that. So I've got high hopes.
Yeah, it looks like a next generation. Because the other thing is, like, VR. Lots of people love VR, and I've always found it really impressive as well. But it's mostly indie games, small companies trying to put together projects and stuff, and you can kind of see like a lot of potential. And some of the best games I feel like were like the I can't remember, was it Elite Dangerous or that looked amazing as well. And driving games and games where you're in a cockpit, they typically seem to be the most polished, most AAA. But now that we've actually got really like a full-on AAA, I guess you could call it, FPS with a massive license behind it, like you said. So it's just a really exciting time, and I don't have a VR headset, but it makes me want to get one. Yeah. Which leads us to our next point. Yeah. So the next topic in news, we have 6 points of 6 news items, I should say, and this is number 2. So we have Valve Index VR kits expect to sell out of stock fast. It's a bit of a weird headline, but I'll just read the sub-caption here. The Valve Index has been seeing massive shortages in supply across every region. Now, with the Index's new killer app set to release on March 23rd, pre-orders have surged and the headset has been increasingly difficult to obtain. To respond to the current shortage, the developer will be releasing more Valve Index kits for sale. However, many sources are warning that the replenished supply is not only insufficient to meet the current demand, but also will not likely last for more than a few days. In a recent post, Twitter news source and leaker Steam Database revealed that the latest wave of Valve Index virtual reality kits would be released on Friday, March 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. However, the leaker cautioned that Valve did not expect its, quote, available stock, end quote, to last during the weekend, and believed it would be all gone by Monday. So basically, long story short, the coronavirus and some other things seems to be impeding. Well, since the pre-orders have gone live, the thing has just been like, you can't get one. No. Right? And there's these, I can't remember the name of the website, but there's like a stock tracker which shows you the different regions of what's in stock where. It's just been completely out of stock. Literally like gets 1 or 2 in, hours later it's gone. So they're obviously having production problems, whether or not it be due to the coronavirus alone or also just the extreme high demand of this game. Remains to be seen, but either way, you can't get one. But they said that they were going to replenish the stocks before the game comes out, but it looks like, at least according to Steam Database, that it's just not even going to be enough even close to enough, and it's going to sell out within 1 to 2 days max.
Yeah, I guess maybe they just didn't see it coming that it was going to be so popular. But I'm surprised they didn't see it coming because I mean they released Half-Life 3. I said their biggest franchise, their most popular franchise, and although they've done a fantastic job of making it completely compatible with every VR device out there, hats off to them. They've done a load of work on all of them. They've always said from day one, you know, this is built for the Index, and the Index is going to be the absolutely best way to play it. But as you said, since it launched, it's been 9 months ago, something like that, or something along those lines, it's been impossible to get on. Unless your first name's Gabe, you cannot get your hands on this thing. Basically, it's impossible. And I think they said the other day that the coronavirus has just made that even worse. As you said, they've had to factory shutdowns and all sorts of things like that. So it is a shame, but there are a lot of other good options out there for people who do want to play. Alyx.
Yeah, so you're going to be using the Oculus Quest.
The Oculus Quest, yeah, that's my personal one, just because of the ease of the ease of mobility.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. Actually, I guess I'll be able to try it as well when I come
out.
over here next time, or next time you have it. Anyway, when's that? I guess
so I think it's out on the 20th.
March 23rd.
Yeah, so after I'll have it on that.
So
day,
in an episode or two, depending on our schedule, of course, we'll both be able to try it, and you'll be able to report back on how the Quest has kind of served that. So it should be interesting to see. But yeah, it's kind of interesting just because from the fact that it's almost like a console with just one launch title. You know, it's like a piece of hardware that you kind of have to own to play this. So it's like, yeah, your game is super demanding, but will people go out and buy like a couple $100, $300, $400 machine?
Oh no, the Index starts at $1,000.
$1,000.
The most expensive one, it starts at £1,000.
Oh shit! I was just going by like what the other ones are priced by. I haven't looked at the Index at all. Damn.
And it goes up from there. That's just the basic, and then there's a few other additional extras.
Sorry for being uninformed on that. I just haven't looked at them because I know I can't get one.
It's the most expensive, most high end one that there is.
Even more than the Vive. Wow.
Yeah, significantly more.
Well, okay. I'm not going to be getting that one then. But yeah, no, I can't wait to see like how review. What I was going to say as well, it'd be really interesting to see what kind of concurrent players the game's going to end up getting on Steam, because obviously it is such a big title, but it requires VR, so it'll be interesting to see how many people are trying it.
It's also a single player game, and obviously we have no idea at this point the replayability. I mean,
how long it is.
I would assume obviously Valve are normally very good allowing modding and stuff like that, and that's what's kept Counter-Strike alive, but is that possible with VR? I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I don't know if the
well, that's the first thing you think is, will they try and mod it?
Yeah.
So that you can play it without a VR headset.
Yeah.
That'd probably be like one of the biggest things that someone will try and do. Because if it's the source engine, which is like pretty moddable, then you'd imagine they could try it. But you'd also imagine that they'd probably try and prevent that if they could.
Well, the things, I mean, a lot of other games are jailbroken and are modded into VR and stuff, so I'm sure it is possible. But
the game looks like it relies on VR so heavily that I don't even know. You'd have to like design whole systems basically on how to do things. But yeah,
we'll see.
It'll be interesting. All right, moving on. So number 3, EA has cancelled a Star Wars Battlefront spin-off last year. This news just came out from Kotaku. So Jason Schreier of Kotaku writes that, quote, last spring, Electronic Arts cancelled a planned spin-off of its popular Star Wars Battlefront series. This latest game, codenamed Viking, was originally envisioned for release in fall 2020 alongside the next generation of consoles. But once it became clear to EA's executives that the timeline was unrealistic, Viking was no more. End quote. The game was due to be a collaboration between EA Vancouver and Criterion, but problems of cross-country development occurred, splitting the vision for the game. It became clear that the game wouldn't be done in a year and a half, so the game was scrapped, and the fall 2020 hole is going to go unfilled. Criterion has moved back onto Need for Speed, and Vancouver is leading help with Apex and Anthem. I just need to scroll down. So since EA obtained the Star Wars license from Disney in 2013, they've released 3 games on console and PC: Battlefront in 2015, Battlefront 2 in 2017, and the recent Jedi Fallen Order at the tail end of 2019. Viking is the 3rd Star Wars game to be cancelled by EA, and they currently have 2 Star Wars projects still in the works: a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order and another unannounced project at EA Motive in Canada. So basically, this is just newsworthy story, just obviously because EA are now getting notorious for cancelling these Star Wars games and mismanaging their product. I think they've had it now for 9 years as an exclusive deal, or somewhere around that number. They've released 3 games and they've cancelled 3 games that we know of. And it just seems to be like a really unfortunate situation where they kind of have the keys to this series and this franchise. Obviously that's been given to them by Disney, obviously through some exclusive deal of some sort, and nobody knows when that deal is up or what the conditions of it are. But you would think that it would behoove Disney to now maybe look for another partner, or even EA to look for other studios, I heard rumblings when I was on the inside of the industry that they look for studios to potentially pitch them ideas of what they could do, maybe for an RTS or other variations of games. Like they have the FPS stuff kind of locked down with DICE. But, you think like even a pod racing game, a racing game, why not have like a Star Wars game for every genre?
EA could pretty much, all they'd have to do is remake a few of the old school, I don't know if you've played them, but some of the most famous old school Star Wars games, like they had Star Wars TIE Fighter and a few of the older, super well-respected Star Wars games. If they remade them, they would just absolutely print money for a relatively low effort project.
Well, that's the thing. They don't even have to like... do anything. It's almost like a safe bet because these games are tried and true and tested and people like their design, so it's like we don't even have to do anything too crazy. You can make an Empire at War 2 or something like that.
But other than that, I mean, it's EA mismanages a game, has to cancel it. Shock. I mean, oh no, we never hear that happening, do we?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know how they thought they could ever release a Battlefront game in 18 months or so. It's absolutely ludicrous.
I wonder what would have been like the Star Wars Battlefront spin-off. Like, what's a spin-off of a Battlefront game?
Yeah, I have no idea what. Yeah, it does seem we got no. We
wish we had more information about that. It'd be kind of cool to know. But yeah, it's kind of interesting then as well, just the fact that like they seem to just want to throw their studios at it. They're like, okay, Criterion and Vancouver, they'll handle this, but the realities of working halfway across the globe from each other, and it's just, and then apparently like the engine, what's it called, Frostbite is just really complicated to work with. So splitting development, but like that. And then having different design vision from different studios and stuff just seemed like they couldn't come to an agreement on anything, and it all fell apart.
Just EA being
crazy.
EA, really.
I've been playing Dead Space recently, and it just irks me so much that like they just butchered that franchise.
Dead Space 1?
Yeah, I've been playing Dead Space 1.
Dead Space 1's so good.
Yeah, I love it.
So good.
I love Dead Space 1 and 2. Yeah. 2, not so much as 1, but some people really love 2.
Yeah,
and then
2's still a legitimately good game. It's not as good as 1, but 3 is...
3 is just unbelievable.
Awful.
And awful. The studio doesn't exist anymore, so it's really sad. Visceral, and funny talking about Visceral, actually, they were one of the studios that were making a Star Wars game that got cancelled. And Amy Hennig was the one leading it, who was, or not leading it, but I think writing the story, who writes the stories for Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, rest in peace, I guess, to that game.
Rip. Press F.
Well, it'll be interesting, I guess, to see what EA Motive are working on next for their next Star Wars project. And they still have that Knights of the Old Republic game, and they have that Galaxy Command mobile game as well.
Yeah. Well, Knights of the Republic is supposed to, that's not that long away. I mean, that shouldn't be too...
Have you played Battlefront 2 recently?
Yes, I have. Not since they had that big new... they had a big new relaunch, like expansion.
Yeah, they added like Geonosis, and then they kind of updated a bunch of things. Yeah, obviously the microtransaction stuff has been kind of long gone.
Yeah. Obviously, I liked it. I played a fair bit of it, but it was just never as good as the old Battlefronts to me. It just
same. It
just never felt. I don't know what I couldn't put my finger on why it's different, but it is different, and it doesn't feel the same. And I've never really.
Well, for me, personally, it's like that star card system that they have. This weird progression.
Terrible.
People are like flying around with these purple cards that make them really powerful, and everyone can get them now. It used to be that it was that microtransaction kind of locked behind that, sort of. Anyway, at least horrible dice roll chances of getting one. But now it's just the natural progression of the game where you have to get like to the max level to be able to use that stuff. So it basically means that, at least from when I played it, I could be wrong, I haven't played it in about 3 or 4 months, but when I did recently play it, at that Geonosis update, you still had to like progress all the way up, and then you'd become better than those around you. And I just don't think that's good for a multiplayer game.
No,
you want everyone to be kind of on an even playing field. And then, like, get your Jedis or whatever the hell it is that run around.
I'm sure you remember from Battlefront 2, I think it was, when the best moments in that game were always, you had these big siege-type environments where you had multiple vehicles on either side. Like, you were invading Hoth, and you had the AT-ATs coming in, and everything moving forward. And obviously you had the starship battles where you had to get on a starship, go land in the enemy hangar, and then have a fight there whilst the star combat was going on. Why have they not done that? It was so good.
I don't know. Yeah,
it was so good
because they added like AT-ATs and stuff. That was in the game when it came out, but they're on rails. You don't have full control of them anymore.
It was never the same.
And then with the space battles, it's not quite the same either. You don't you don't seem to have as much player control in what you do.
Exactly.
And then I remember flying around and bombing the different parts of Star Destroyers and stuff, taking things offline, then landing inside and
it was fantastic.
Detonating the cores and stuff.
You have to take the shields down so you could land, then you have to fight through the hangar bay and all this sort of stuff. It was incredible, and they were the same to you. It was fantastic.
That'd be an amazing game. I mean, Battlefield has something like that. The naval assault thing where you've got your 2 ships, you have to take off their artillery, bombard them until the doors open up, get in, and then it's a rush game mode to get to the center. It's so cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Just do that.
That's what I mean. I just assumed that was going to be in the game because everybody loved that, and it was it wouldn't. I'm surely it couldn't be that much work compared to what they did. It just
Yeah.
bit
Well,
of a
I mean,
no-brainer.
we might be what's the word, in the minority here, because the game is actually doing a lot better. A lot of people are playing it and telling me that it's really good now. It's really good now. But every time I play it, I just can't get it out of my head that I hate this progression system. I want to just be able to do what I used to be able to do. It does still. Everyone knows this. It looks amazing.
Oh, it's fantastic looking.
It's the best looking Star Wars game ever, but it just lacks something.
I completely agree. It just doesn't lack something. It does lack something.
Okay, so moving on to number 4. GDC has been postponed due to the coronavirus health concerns. After several high-profile developers and publishers announced that they would not be attending due to potential health risks posed to their teams, GDC officially postponed the show themselves, which was scheduled to take place March 16th for several days. An official statement accompanying the announcement on the GDC website read, quote, "Having spent the past year preparing for the show with our advisory board, speakers, exhibitors, and event partners, we're genuinely upset and disappointed not to be able to host you at this time." It then continues, "We fully intend to host a GDC event later in the summer. We will be working with our partners to finalize the details and we'll share more information about our plans in the coming weeks," end quote. On the FAQ page of the website, Expo attendees will be eligible for full refunds, as will those who booked rooms inside the GDC room block. But for those who booked flights and hotels externally, they'll not be able to get a refund. Several talks and the Game Developers Choice Awards will still go ahead in the form of a Twitch stream. We got someone who wrote in about this. Dan Suso wrote in and said, on the subject of coronavirus impact on the games industry, is E3 also in danger, or the manufacturing of the new consoles? So this is a really good question, I think, and it's just a really interesting thing that the coronavirus really does seem to be impacting so many parts of the industry all over the world. Not just the games industry, tech industry, production. Basically,
you've seen that. I think it's $6 trillion have been wiped off the world economy via all the stock markets crashing over the last week.
Yeah, so I saw that the Dow Jones fell like 3,000 points or something.
Yeah, it did.
It's climbing back up, but it was like a massive tanking. When that news kind of came out. So it's crazy. It's actually like you kind of hear about it rumbling for like the last few months, and it's like, oh, it's this thing in China, and then it's like spreading to a few cases have been popping up in England. It's like, okay, whatever, but it's like actually it's still kind of building up and getting a bit more serious. And now people are like really on quarantine and lockdown. It's like, well, we're not going to these events, we're not going to risk it, and rightfully so. You know, if I was in charge of an event, like Sony, I think pulled out of going to it, or Naughty Dog, it might have been of going to PAX, I think it was, because of a similar thing. And it was because, you know, if you were making The Last of Us and you don't want imagine the situation of a few of your members going to PAX or GDC, coming back and then infecting like most of the studio, the game gets delayed. Studio's gone. You could have a real impact. Like even if like half your workforce, or even let's say even a quarter of your workforce has to just be sick for a little while. It's a pretty big. It's a big risk that you do not want to take. So it's a good thing, I think, that people are just postponing these events. It is a shame. A lot of GDC is obviously an event. It's Game Developers Conference, so it's not really a media event. It's really meant for game developers to go to it, meet up with other game developers, sign publishing deals, find publishers for their games, find work in different studios and things like that. So a lot of people do actually rely on it when they're out of work, or if a studio is closed this year, you know, they go to GDC to try and make those connections. So it is a really unfortunate thing. It's good that it's technically only postponed, but who knows? Down the line, you know, what the coronavirus situation will be, better or worse. It might not happen at all this year.
And then on Dunsuso's question, obviously, will it, you know, is E3 in danger and the new consoles? Well, firstly, I think E3 definitely is in danger. I mean, we'll see how things are in a few months, because who knows how the situation, everything could have died down. It could be just as bad as it is now. It could be worse. So, I mean, there's no way that E3 are not thinking about this right now, and everyone and any big companies attending E3, they're definitely thinking about this.
I think they did just recently say that they're planning to go ahead with it. But of course, like if things escalate in a few months, then they might not be able to. However, the E3 are run by the ESA, and half their income comes from E3. So they might just go ahead with it regardless, because they kind of need to financially. But however,
a lot of people won't go, surely.
Exactly, yeah. So it's not really about whether or not they're going to continue it. I don't think it's whether or not developers are going to go there. Because these also, I mean, game events, it's not the most hygienic place.
I was going to make a comment about it, but I didn't know how to tactfully mention it.
I mean, I know there's like a meme, or what is it, a stereotype, I guess you could call it, about gamers being not the cleanest. But it is true. I've been to these game events, people stink. It's kind of crazy. I don't know why that is. But it's these crammed halls, it's hot, You've got a lot of people there. Toilets are like overflowing.
Did you see a picture of? This is Comic-Con, so it's not quite the same, but the same thing. There was a girl at the front of the Comic-Con doors, in front of the line, saying, "If you can afford Comic-Con tickets, you can afford deodorant."
Yeah, I mean she's not lying. No, it is just crazy. I mean, it's not most people. It's a small fraction of people, but you definitely notice it when you go to these events that you're rubbing elbows with people that really are a bit sweaty.
You don't want to be rubbing elbows with.
Yeah. So, and then obviously, you're shaking hands with developers, and it's just like a very communicative kind of thing where you're kind of you have a high chance of getting sick, basically. And then these food halls and stuff, it's not the most hygienic kind of situations to be in. So you hope, I would hope at least that if E3 do go ahead with it, there's like extra sanitary things in place. And if you're planning to go to E3 or any of these events, because this year E3 is supposed to be more of a consumer show, where they've opened it up for more tickets and more people to go. So it's even more potentially risk averse, or not averse, risky. So so basically, if you're going to any of these events, just be like extremely safe. Carry those like little sanitary wipes with you and stuff like that.
And
gels.
Then the second part, in terms of the manufacturing, I think I'm definitely one of them, but I'm sure it was both of them. They both said that it has already been affected. I believe a huge amount of manufacturing in tech is all done in China. It's all been affected. Apple's been massively affected. Sony's been affected. A bunch of other companies have been affected too. And obviously now is the worst time. They're ramping up, probably making massive stocks now of the PS5 and the Xbox. What's it called?
Series X.
Series X. Series X. So it's obviously going to hit them at a very, very tough time. And you never know, because it may work in their favor. If it's for both of them, it may well work in their favor, because it's going to make things more exclusive when they launch, and then maybe stocks will be a little bit lower. But if it just is going to hit one of the companies harder than the other, then it's going to affect them massively, because both are going to launch at a very similar time, as we know they always will. And if it comes down to, I was going to get, people who are middle of the road, I was going to get the Xbox, but that's, I can't get that one for another 2 months because of manufacturing, or vice versa. That's going to favour one side or the other massively.
I think for sure manufacturing, they have said it's being impacted, but I think it will continue to be impacted. But I don't think they're going to delay the consoles or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I think PlayStation and Xbox are coming out this year, no matter what.
Yeah, definitely.
And if it's a shortage, it's a shortage. Yeah. That's probably just what they'll have to do, because they can't afford to not go with it. It would be absolutely crazy though if they did delay console launches like that. But they're going to happen. But a lot of people are speculating. That's why Sony just haven't said anything for a while, because things just aren't ready, and they're just not sure yet what's going to happen, what the price is going to be. Because the other thing is the price of all these components is going up because the demand is so high for the manufacturing now. So it's really affecting everything. It's quite interesting to see how much of a knock-on effect it's having.
Well, obviously, when we have some more information, we'll talk in more detail about the consoles as well, because we can talk about them for a while. But I've just seen how long 0.5 is on this, Darren. So I'll be back in a few minutes. I'll make a cuppa. I'll see you then.
Well, it's worth mentioning. This is a really interesting topic, actually. So number 5, GOG, Good Old Games. I was trying to think what it stood for there for a second. God, I'm an idiot. All right, games. Number 5, Good Old Games updates their refund policy, extending playtime and conditions needed for a refund. So a blog post on GOG.com updated consumers as to the new policy change, summarizing game changes with, quote, summarizing the changes with, quote, starting now you can get a full refund up to 30 days after purchasing a product, even if you downloaded, launched, and played it. That's it, end quote. The blog points to an FAQ pretty much clarifying that refunds can take place on all forms of content, including gifts to the original customer, of course, pre-order content, early access titles, and DLC that isn't part of an original bundle. The question on many consumers' minds is if there's any limitations placed on this, on the amount of refunds, and a question this was answered in their FAQ. So it reads, quote, "We trust that you're making informed purchasing decisions, and will use this updated voluntary refund policy only if something doesn't work as you expected. This is why there are no limits, but instead we reserve the right to refuse refunds in individual cases. Please respect all the time and hard work put into making the games you play, and remember that refunds are not reviews. If you finish the game and didn't like it, please consider sharing your opinion instead. Also, please don't take advantage of our trust by asking for an unreasonable amount of games to be refunded. Don't be that person. Nobody likes that person," end quote. Many developers are voicing their concerns on Twitter and social media that the system may be too open to abuse and that they weren't consulted about it. When combined with the fact that GOG's games are DRM free, it enables users to actually refund the games and keep playing them. And that's pretty much it. So it's quite a big, rapid policy change. There's also further articles written about the fact that developers weren't warned about this, and they're kind of up in arms about what it could mean for them potentially. So what do you think?
Personally, I love this. I think it's fantastic.
Well, it's super consumer friendly. Obviously.
Super consumer friendly. And the thing is, Good Old Games, they're not EA, they're not Origin, they're not Steam. They have always been the smaller little brother. They've always been the consumer-friendly guys, DRM-free guys,
Yep.
the guys you can go to get all these great deals on previous games. They do a lot of work themselves with making old games compatible with Windows 10 and etc. They've always been the good little guys in terms of the sort of the storefront industry. So I think for them this makes complete sense because it's exactly who they've kind of always been. So this matches a lot of some other online services that Amazon do. So I'm sure you know Kindle for books and stuff like that, and Audible for audiobooks. For example, they both have the same policy where you can refund whenever, whatever.
Yeah.
You could technically have read a whole book and refund it, although that'd be, a dick move. And if you did that multiple times, like GOG have mentioned, it wouldn't go down well.
Yeah.
You could do it, and it's fine. I think, to be honest, this is in the future. Most refund policies are going to be like this, just because obviously they will just monitor your account if they think you're taking the piss, or you've been playing a game for 200 hours and you go, should refund.
But the thing with GOG is it's DRM free.
True.
So they can't actually check how long you've been playing anything, and
Yeah.
they don't know if it works.
True.
So that's kind of why I think that they've just ended up going with this, because it's like, well, we can't track you anyway, so we kind of have to take you on your word.
Yeah.
So we'll just take you on your word to the nth degree,
Mhm.
where you can basically do whatever you want. So yeah,
I mean, obviously, I don't know the stats.
up to 30 days after purchasing. So
Yeah.
I guess if it's longer than a month, if you bought it after a month, you can't get it back.
So obviously we'll see in 6 months' time if this is still the case or if they release anything. But my personal opinion is I think this won't hurt them at all. I think they'll do.
Yeah.
I think this will just looks good for them. I think obviously you always get the amount of. There's always going to be a few people who abuse the system, whatever the system is. But it's a tiny amount, I think, compared to the goodwill they will get. So
Yeah,
personally, this is a great move.
I mean, I personally agree. I think as long as they can identify people who are abusing
Yes.
it, and they can like put a stop to that, or at least just deny them a few reviews. Once you get denied a review a couple times, you'll probably stop.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not a review, a refund.
Yes.
Once you get denied a refund, you're probably not going to then take a risk on buying a bunch of other games and trying to refund them.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that'll kind of curb that.
I really like the phrase they've used there. Refunds are not reviews. That's a very good
That was
very
awesome,
good phrase, isn't
because
it?
it's like we don't want people to just mass review bomb or
No.
refund bomb, I guess,
Yeah.
the game just because a developer says or does
Yeah.
something. That's a big concern, I suppose.
Well, then
If a developer comes out like an EA game or something and they say they do something, and then suddenly they start getting all these refunds, what are they going to do? Are they
Yeah.
going to let people all refund if they've never had one before?
Well-
That'll be interesting to see, because that's essentially a refund bomb, right?
Yeah.
If suddenly everyone's refunding based on a business practice.
like Warcraft 3.
Yeah, basically, it's like the game works.
Yeah.
And
But I think more what they're saying when they say refunds are not reviews is they mean if you buy a game but it's not quite right or it's not quite what you expected it to be, that is not worthy of a refund. It's if it's not something egregious
That's true
and
as well,
massive, like this game doesn't work or they false advertised this. It's not just like it wasn't a 10 out of 10. I only played it for 25 hours and it wasn't my favorite game ever. That's not, that is not a good enough excuse to refund the game. You still had the game's, the legitimate game there. They haven't lied to you or misled you.
yeah.
I think that's what they mean, which I completely agree with.
Well, it's interesting as well because Steam has their I didn't think it was fun option. But they do have their 2-hour rule on that, I guess, technically.
Yeah.
So yeah, be interested to see how it all pans out. And will Steam try to keep up with that, or will they just leave it? I mean, I'd be most interested to see what developers say if
Completely.
they see their games suddenly being refunded a lot more than
Yeah.
before, and so on and so forth. A lot of indie developers says it's going to impact them the most.
Mhm.
I actually don't agree with that. I'd say that it'll impact big developers more.
I would say so.
Because they're the ones where you think like most people are probably like, well, it doesn't matter if Activision can keep my money or whatever companies,
Yeah.
but it does probably matter if an indie company gets it or not.
Yeah, exactly. I also think there's a much lesser chance of you reviewing, if you refunding a £5 game that you buy and you play for an hour and you think, well, I took a chance on it, wasn't quite right for me. And as you said, GOG, although they've got a lot of AAA games in there and big games these days, they're primarily indie games or games from the past that have been brought up. So, I can't see it hurting many people there.
All right, so let's move on to number 6.
The best.
There's actually 7 in total. I thought there was 6.
dear
So number
God.
6, Baldur's Gate 3 reveal and gameplay. The game looks amazing. It's a CRPG with turn-based combat made by Larian, the developers behind Divinity Original Sin. The game will be early access and featured an in-depth 2-hour live presentation showcasing party management, RPG mechanics, and various combat scenarios. It aims to feature exclusive Stadia features such as players watching Stadia content on YouTube and then interacting with the game world. No full details on that yet. I stuttered over that because I had rewritten it just recently because I thought that they said that was going to happen, but it is just them saying that they're going to try and do it, basically, then actually delivering it. It was uploaded on their Stadia channel, which I thought was interesting as well.
So I just want to start from the very end and cover the Stadia stuff first, because we can talk about the game in more detail. But something they actually mentioned as well, you didn't mention there, that they did just say is a pipe dream, but not necessarily a pipe dream, something they think could be doable but isn't confirmed anyway yet, is they were talking about how you could be watching someone stream on the Stadia, or watching a stream on the Stadia, and then you launch it and you can basically pick up the game at that point yourself.
Right.
So you can pick up that save game type thing from right at that point. You could press a button, and then you will start playing the game from that point.
Interesting.
And they said that they had some statement the other day, and they were saying the technical limitations of that don't exist. That is physically possible for them to do, but it is still tough.
Yeah.
To be honest, that was the most exciting bit of the Stadia stuff, because the rest of it.
Yeah, well, that is interesting. I mean, obviously, with running a game in the cloud, I guess, and just beaming back the video footage, you could then potentially just take their save. Yeah, I don't know. Could they split their? I'm just trying to think how they'd actually do that. The way I could imagine it would be done is they'd literally just take your save, pop it onto another Stadia machine, beam it back to you.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't be picking up exactly where they left off. You'd be picking up from the recent save.
Yes.
Now, if they have some way of actually somehow partitioning the state of the game onto another server and letting you literally pick up in the middle of a boss fight that someone else was doing, that'd be kind of wild.
That'd be amazing.
I don't know if I'd ever want to do that, but
me neither.
It'd be impressive.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be amazing that you could.
It'd be impressive.
Other than that, I mean, the game looks fantastic. I know we were talking about this very, very briefly before we went live, and I played a lot of Divinity Original Sin, and a huge amount of Divinity Original Sin 2. I played both of them extensively. Finished both of them. They are absolutely fantastic games. I think nearly everybody agrees that Divinity Original Sin 2 is probably the best CRPG and sort of Dungeons and Dragons style RPG that exists. And I think any of you that have played the last two games will see that Baldur's Gate 3 is essentially a carbon copy and improved version. An improved version of that. It seems to take a big departure away from the old Baldur's Gate styles, and seems to have basically just taken the Baldur's Gate story, put it in the sort of Divinity Original 2 wrapper, but then obviously made a number of changes and everything as well, and it looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I wish we didn't actually get anyone that wrote in about it, but I was talking to people about it in my Discord when they were watching it, and they were big fans of the old Baldur's Gate games as well. So just from a little bit of reading around, I haven't played Baldur's Gate before, so I was interested to see what do people think, because people were talking about how the combat's now turn-based, which is a departure from how the combat worked before. But people said that, at least just anecdotally in my circles, they were saying that, well, the combat wasn't really a big part of what made Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 that good. And they thought that the turn-based combat actually looked really good. You mentioned that there's a lot of shared assets between Divinity Original Sin and this run at Baldur's Gate 3, but also that that was just placeholder, apparently.
Yes, so there were a lot of comments. Obviously, everyone's commented on this saying it looks fantastic, and I don't think anyone's disagreed with that. But there were quite a few comments mentioning how a lot of the art assets, a lot of the visual effects and things are pulled straight from DOS 2. But I think they mentioned straight away that most of these are placeholders, and they did the exact same from DOS 1 and DOS 1 and DOS 2 as well. When they Divinity Original Sin 2, when the first gameplay demo that came out, there was a huge amount of assets from DOS 1 that they then changed for release, and they'd completely altered. But did you ever play Pillars of Eternity or any of that?
No, so I always look at these games and I think they look so cool.
Yeah.
Like what's the other one? Tyranny. Have you seen that one by Obsidian? Obviously Pillars of Eternity is Obsidian as well, I guess. And
you've got that, and you've got Kingmaker. I can't remember how it's called. It's another really famous one too.
Pathfinder Kingmaker.
Yeah.
So these games, I look at them, their art is so beautiful, and I just think it looks great, and I really want to play them, but they are, for me at least, they seem to be huge time sinks.
They are.
So I just don't ever think I have the time for it. So I've never played Divinity Original Sin 2. It's on my wish list.
Yeah.
I kept up with it from before development through release and everything.
Yeah.
And just like Divinity Original Sin 2, this one's going to be early access as well. But this one really stood out to me as well, because not only did it look like DOS 2, but it also, like you said, it looked improved, where the character interactions just
Yes.
look so much more impressive. It's
They
like
do.
almost like, you know, I want to say Oblivion, Skyrim levels, but modern.
Yeah.
Proper normal RPG, not just CRPG where the camera's always up above them. You could bring your camera down, have your dialogue options, really get face to face with these characters. But this was a character the guy made on stream, and he had all these dialogue options that were relevant to him. Now, obviously, it's a demo. I'm sure they planned most of that. But if that's what they can deliver across whatever character you make, that seems so impressive to me. And then the demo was 2 hours. The guy died multiple times, you know, and it was really fun to watch, actually, because he was obviously I can't remember his name, but he's like one of the lead. He is the game director there. I can't remember his name, but most people know him because he was the spokesperson basically for all the Kickstarter and early access stuff for the previous games. And he really seems like a really nice and funny and passionate guy. And then when he died, you know, he's like, oh, I have to do this bit again. It's going to take 10 minutes. But people didn't mind. And he tried doing it then differently, so at least he could show something else. And he was like, well, you know, that's just what happened. So props to them for showing like a live demo, even if they have to use shared assets and stuff or anything like that, or placeholder assets. But the thing that really stood out to me then was the combat, because you went from moving around like a normal CRPG where you're able to move freeform wherever you want, but then it kind of goes into this like XCOM like gameplay.
Yeah.
Except it's not on a grid, which I've never personally. If that's the way Divinity Original Sin works, I can't believe I didn't see that before.
Exactly the same, yeah.
So for me, that was like mind blowing to me, because I was like, holy shit, I've never seen turn based like this where it's not attached to a grid and you have this freedom to move.
You have, because you've played Wasteland 2.
That's on a grid.
No, it's not. No, Wasteland 2 is the exact same, completely freeform. You can go anywhere. I mean, it's a simplified, actually, it's only graphically simpler. Other than that, the gameplay is very similar as well. It's, the gameplay of this game and Wasteland 2 and about to be Wasteland 3 are essentially the same. The gameplay loop's the same.
That's crazy that I remember differently in my head.
Wasteland 2 is not.
I've just always pictured it on a grid.
Yeah, not on a grid at all. It's completely freeform.
Either way, I guess I hadn't seen it in a while, so I was like, holy crap, he's able to like jump up and down like these really big vertical, a lot of verticality, I guess the catchphrase that everyone uses, the buzzword that everyone uses. But there was a lot of verticality, and he was able to jump up and down, kick items down below, and then the characters down below would use them, and then putting down different terrain effects, and so it just looks so much fun.
It looks awesome.
With a lot of variety, and then in between going from different dialogues, and then you're having a dialogue with someone and they betray you, and then suddenly combat kicks off. It looks really, really good.
So what's another cool thing as well is obviously I've played a lot of the last two, and the original Baldur's Gates too, but the last two DOSs. And to be honest, I'm probably going to keep saying that because I think this is much more similar to Divinity Original Sin than it is to Baldur's Gate. So I kind of see it more Divinity Original Sin 3. But you can, although you've got, you know, from launch, it's quite simple, you know, simplified. You don't get all the dice rolls. The game is actually completely built on dice rolls. All the dice rolls are happening behind the scenes, and with the options, you can change it to show all of that stuff. So people that like all that D&D style dice rolling, it's all in there if you want to know what's happening behind the scenes. Yeah,
so I watched some video about that, and they showed that like it was Easy Allies actually, those guys, and they were talking about how a D20 actually gets rolled if you want the option to see it. You can see the outcomes that way. So that's really cool that you can see that stuff as well.
So
it just looks extremely impressive. I wanted to bring it up on the show just because like I'm not an RP. I don't play these games. I'm always intrigued by them. I always think they look interesting. But this one, I think, will actually be one that gets me over the hump to actually get it.
You'll have to pick this one up. Definitely.
I think I'm gonna get Divinity actually, just because I want to play something like that now.
I mean, to be honest, I've seen it. It's always on such deep sales.
Yeah, I mean, it's on sale right now as we record.
It always is. I'd highly recommend it because I mean, this looks so similar. I think you'd have a great time with Divinity.
Okay, so moving on.
Another fantastic game next.
Exactly. Yeah. So number 7, Mountain Blade. Early access launch date and pricing has been revealed. Sorry, Mountain Blade Bannerlord, I really should have said. Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. So Bannerlord is set to release exactly 10 years after Warband.
Crazy, it's
and
been
will
that
be
long.
Priced at $49.99, €49.99 and £39.99. The price is not expected to change when the game leaves early access, and early access is expected to last around a year.
Yeah.
Dan Sousa writes in, just like you can, over at podcast submissions in our Discord. If you want to know our Discord link, check the description. You can always comment on these videos as well, or catch me on Patreon. I'll try to include questions anywhere we get them. He says, Mountain Blade Bannerlord 2 reveals price and release date. Do you think it's too expensive? Note that the price won't change when they left early access. So it's basically a full price game that's in early access.
It is expensive.
It is expensive.
Let's be honest.
From what it looks like any other AAA game to me. I know it's made by a small developer and it is early access, but I don't mind as long as the quality's there.
I mean, to be honest, if this is anything like, you know, Warband or any of the other Mountain Blades, I would pay double that because I know the hours of enjoyment I'm going to get out of it. Mm-hmm. But I still think objectively it is expensive for an early access game. No matter the quality, and I think it will be fantastic. £40 sterling is a lot for an early access game.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I agree, actually. When it's early access, it does kind of have this... You're buying in something that's not complete, right? So you should get some... It should be cheaper than it would be if it was released.
Which is what normally is the case. You normally get a deep discount for it being early access. Then when everything's, in a year's time and everything's, AAA, then it will bump up by £10 or something. So
yeah, I do agree. I think I did speak too soon on that one.
I think I've seen a lot of other people mention that as well. Not that it's too expensive for the game total, but it's because it's early access. So this was 1.0 launch. I think it'd be fine. But I mean, other than that, I cannot wait, Darren. I can't believe it's 10 years since Warband. I think the main thing that makes me think is how well Warband has held up over the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, obviously it has a huge modding community that just keeps it going. But I actually played it this week. We'll talk about that maybe a little later. We'll just talk about it now. But I basically played Warband this week on my Throwback Thursday stream, where we go back and we play some old game that I haven't played in a while, or maybe I've never played. Now, I have played Warband a lot back in the day. I suck at it. I'm really bad at it. I don't know why. I mean, I'm okay with the combat, but then when it gets to the campaign, I always run out of supplies and troops.
But I think that is famously hard and has loads of niches and stuff like that. So unless you sink a lot of time into it, you are going to be bad.
But it's funny because I must have played 60 or 70 hours. It was one of the earliest Steam games I actually ever had, and I wasn't looking up online what to do or anything. Yeah. And I ended up going years and years without even knowing that you could become your own ruler of your own kingdom or marrying people and all that. So I never knew any of that. So this game just looks incredible from that standpoint now.
What I would recommend doing is on Warband. I mean, it's been out 10 years. We're not breaking the game. There are some very easy to use cheats on it if you just want to see what it's like to be a king and stuff like that. Yeah. Just advance yourself just to mess around, because it is amazing having an army of 300 people and then having all your knights follow you around with these massive armies.
Yeah.
Also, did you ever play the other Warband with Fire and Sword, and then the Napoleon DLC?
No, I played the Napoleon one. I took part in the line battle.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
The nerdiest thing I've ever played. Probably.
My favourite times, probably on online gaming, are the line battles of Napoleon. That are still there to this day. If you go and play Fire and Sword now, all anyone is playing is Napoleon line battles, and you've got a little officer in front of you with his sword up. You've got a piper piping next to you with the battle, and there's 10 of you lining up against the other guys, and it is absolutely incredible. It's so much fun. Your muskets can't hit the side of a barn. You can't hit anything with them.
It's everyone just firing and missing each other.
And the reload is about 20 seconds reloads. You do nothing, but it is so much fun. Little bagpipes in the background, just standing on a wall trying to defend a breach. Oh my god, Darren, it's so good.
Yeah, I took part in one once where it was 80 people or something. It was pretty fun. But at the same time, I don't think I'd ever want to do it again.
Really?
Just because it's I don't know. I get it. It's just hilarious because of how ridiculous everything is, right? And people, exactly. You're reloading, just running up to people. Yeah. You can't do anything. You're trying to swing swords at them and stuff. It is just chaotic, ridiculous fun. But I don't know.
At least once a month, I do a line battle on Napoleon. I love them because there's so many good maps out there for them as well, and it's all these different choke points and taking these different star forts and all.
I never did any of that. For me, it was an open field basically.
Oh yeah, no. There's that's good, but there's way more. There's ones where you've got take a gatehouse and you've got to capture the gatehouse and then take the next floor, and then you've got cannons going off, and you can. You can then flank the castle on ships to go around the side of it when you're in your little, bayonet charging and stuff.
You can get in boats.
You can get in boats, and then
I never saw that either.
Then pilot them round the side. There's so much stuff in addition to that.
This game has already got mods for it, so it's in a sort of a closed beta. Yeah. And I don't know how you actually got into it, but it wasn't open to everybody. I couldn't get in.
So I'm not in. I haven't played Warband. Bannerlord, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I didn't say you did.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying that it is in beta.
I've got in.
No, but I haven't got in personally. But based on that, a few YouTubers are already showing some of the mods that are available, and there's some people. It's really interesting. There's communities that are developing models and stuff for the last year or two, knowing that it's going to go into the game eventually when it comes out. So they're trying to have stuff ready basically for when stuff comes out. It's really interesting. So the modding scene for the game is huge.
I mean, to be honest, I think it's all built on a very similar framework to the previous one. So modders know exactly what they're doing. It's all been very, very simple to do that sort of stuff.
Well, they've been really communicative about that, about what exporter you need and for models and stuff, and what they're using. So they do have it's an upgraded engine. I don't know if it's a brand new one. I don't have the information on that, but it is definitely at the very least upgraded. I remember them doing big engine videos and talking about their landscape generation and stuff like that. But yeah, they've been putting out blog posts for the last few years telling
Yeah.
people about the different tools that you can use if you want to get stuff in the game eventually. So it's
Um,
really mod friendly. I mean, to be like, that's
so
actually a
mod
really,
friendly.
it's such a great idea to do that before your game even comes out.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you want to get ready for stuff, like this is what you could be doing. That's actually a really nice
But
idea.
on the side, I mean, all these companies that are very open and active with their modders do so much better than companies that don't. Because like Warband would have crumbled years ago if it hadn't been for the modding community. To be honest, that's why it's so big, because you have these vast amount of everything from maps to complete single player rehauls to every different universe you can imagine has been remade in single player.
Yeah.
And other games, games like RimWorld and other games which are so mod friendly, they always do so well. The companies that embrace their communities like that, because it does give the longevity. But I haven't played Bannerlord yet. I've seen a lot of videos of it. I absolutely cannot wait. All I want is a slightly better looking Warband, and that's what it looks like.
Well, I don't know how big Warband is. We're kind of debating this in our Discord, like how many players are going to be in the game on launch. I personally think it's going to be like massive,
So I
absolutely huge.
So I think Warband was 120 or something like that. You could get up to, I believe.
No. I mean concurrent players who are going to buy the game.
Oh god, it's going to be absolutely massive.
I think it's like going to be one of the biggest Steam launches of the year.
I think so too. I think it'd be absolutely massive.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll see. We'll report back on those numbers when
fantastic.
it happens. All right, so that's pretty much it for all the news segments that we have. Then we have noteworthy releases. I think what we'll do with this, Toby, is we'll alternate,
Okay.
so that I'm not just reading all of these
Cool.
little things. But we're not going to talk about the individual games, just kind of report them as the noteworthy releases, and then we'll talk about what we've been playing at the end. So you can actually kick it off with this first one. Actually,
let's do it the other way around.
Do it the other way, because RimWorld's next.
Yeah.
So the first one, then for noteworthy releases and things that's kind of come out or been revealed to be coming out pretty soon, will be Destiny 2's Season of the Worthy. Bungie has revealed everything coming the next Destiny 2 season, Season of the Worthy. This season includes PvE content mostly centered around helping Rasputin, as well as in the PvP activity Trials of Osiris. The season begins on March 10th, 2020 and ends on June 9th. Its season pass will cost 1,000 silver. So obviously this game is a free-to-play game now on Steam that you can just hop into anytime you want. And then I guess with the in-game paid currency, which is silver, I suppose. I don't play the game, so I don't know. Yeah, do you know what the real value of that would be then?
I think there's about 20 quid.
Okay, then. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to give it a mention. I don't personally play Destiny, but I have friends who do, and they say it's really good.
I did. I've stopped playing now because this year's absolutely terrible. But I did play a lot of Destiny, and I thought this season looks terrible as well. To be completely honest, I'm not going back.
This season's terrible?
This season doesn't look good. I mean,
really?
Who knows? But I mean, to be honest, since it went free to play, the feedback's been negative and it's been sliding down again. Now, had a huge player spike when it went free to play, and since then it's been falling back down again. It's one of those games where it will always have people play it because it's got a very addictive gameplay loop. The gameplay of Destiny is fantastic. I love it. It has some of the most satisfying combat and shooting ever. But the Bungie have just got more and more money hungry. They've monetized more and more things in it. And
wasn't that like what people said that Activision were doing? Now they've parted with Activision. I thought things have gotten better.
So people thought that was going to be the case, but they've made a lot of bad decisions involving putting no new armor sets into the game. The only armor sets they're putting into the game are paid for, and all these other things. So they keep introducing these new challenges, but the rewards are essentially non-existent, so they're pointless. So though the actual gameplay of them is fun, there's no reward tier and a few things like that. So people will still like it. Personally, it's not enough to take me back.
Another thing I just thought of as well. We had some people correcting us before in the previous episode on certain things. If we do get anything wrong, or if you feel like you want to voice your own concerns about certain things that you think, let's say you disagree with Toby about Destiny 2.
You should.
Write in the comments and we'll include it next week in the kind of at the beginning. I think that'd be good.
It's only our opinions. We're happy to be wrong.
Yeah. Okay, so next one for you, Toby.
A surprise release of RimWorld 1.1 update, and the main surprise there was the new expansion Royalty that they'd told nobody about. So, context, the Empire has arrived. Their honor-bound culture wields hyper-advanced technology while bowing to the ancient traditions of kings and queens. Now they settle the RimWorld and seek allies. Currently sitting at about 92% positive reviews on Steam across about 600, 700 reviews. Royalty brings with it royal titles, psychic powers, quests, new mech clusters, which are basically mech bases, and imperial tech. Now, I've been playing a lot of RimWorld this week. It's going to be on one of the main games I played, and the expansion, and it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. To be honest, so people knew 1.1 was coming. That was expected, but then on top of that, they went, "Oh, by the way, here's a massive update, by the way, and also here's a whole new expansion that we'd never told anybody about. Nobody knew about. And was completely under the radar." Now, the expansion has, it's not completely game changing or in any way, but it's added a whole bunch of new features, a whole new a bunch of ways to play. And RimWorld is one of those games where you've either got 0 hours played or 1,000 hours played.
Yeah.
So there's no in the middle. People, it's like Marmite. People love it or hate it. So it's the case of, if it's not worth buying RimWorld for the expansion or anything like that. But if you've got 1,000 hours in RimWorld, it's going to give you another few hundred hours gameplay straight away off the back of that. Personally, I recommend it very, very highly. It's probably one of my favourite games of all time, I think, in terms of just...
It's one of Steam's highest rated games of all time.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised. It's just fantastic. And once again, they feed back into what I was talking about earlier in terms of developers that work with their community. RimWorld is made by about 4 people that make this game. They released 1.1. It broke a bunch of mods, and then literally in the middle of the night, in the developer's time zone, there was some some sort of new .NET patch was released, or Microsoft framework was released. It broke their entire modding framework in the middle of the night. They updated everything, changed everything, messaged all their modders. I'm like, oh, this is what you've got to do to fix everything.
Wow.
And everything was fixed within like 2 hours. They're super engaged.
That's awesome.
But yeah, overall, it's a fantastic game. If you want to commit war crimes but don't want to go to prison, play RimWorld. You're going to have whole colonies where you just farm slaves, organs, and then sell them for profit, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a minute. You can tell me what you've been doing in it.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one is the Division 2 Warlords of New York DLC. The only way to stop a citywide bio attack is to hunt Aaron Keener down. But to get him, agents first must get through his close guard of rogue agents standing in the way. Once trained by the Division, each strayed for individual beliefs, only to regroup under a common banner held by Keener. Warlords of New York is set during the late summer in the open world of Lower Manhattan, a brand new area in the Division franchise composed of 4 new playable areas: 2 bridges, Civic Center, Battery Park, and Financial District. You've been playing it?
This is my second played game of this week. Got the DLC yesterday, completed it today. It's really good.
Okay. We'll get to that then.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Next one up is for you.
Halo Combat Evolved. Oh my god, why'd you make me read this one? No offense. Halo Combat Evolved recently dropped onto Steam and the Microsoft Game Pass, seemingly with no warning, on March the 3rd as part of the Master Chief Collection. The game is listed as a DLC that fits into the collection for free if you already own it, or can be purchased separately. The Master Chief Collection released on Steam and Game Pass on December the 3rd with one game in the collection, Halo Reach. 4 months later, Halo Combat Evolved has been added, and over time, the collection plans to fill out, adding 4 more titles: Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, Halo 4. These games are all basically the same. Sorry, everyone. These games aim to boast 60k 4K support with up-res textures and improved 60 FPS 4K support. Sorry, reading anything about Halo makes me feel ill. This is a very long paragraph.
I don't even know why you dislike it.
Oh, it's terrible. The collection has also suffered a sharp drop-off in concurrent players. Originally, the MCC launched with a peak of 161,000 players, but averages only about 4,000 to 5,000 daily at the moment. Since Combat Evolved released, the player count has spiked up to about 35,000 according to Steam. I'm really sorry, but Halo's just not my cup of tea at all. I hate Halo. I'll put it that way.
I just don't play Halo, and it's an unpopular opinion. I hate to give unpopular opinions, I guess. But personally, I just think it's kind of generic. But I don't know. And you know what? The concurrent player base is backing me up. Right? 160,000 nostalgia freaks went in there. 4,000 remain. But no, I don't know. I'm surprised that I think it's just the interesting thing here actually is that with it's spiking back up to 35,000. That's good and all, but like it really is a fraction of what started off, so it's kind of weird. But it depends on the game, I guess. So when Halo 3, I imagine, kind of releases for this collection, which will be a bit later, the game will probably see a massive jump. Some people have noted though that they're a little bit unhappy that the game is missing its Forge mode and Griffball, at least from Halo Reach. So it doesn't seem to have absolutely everything that the old ones did, but generally people still really like it though.
I think personally, although with my own hyper feelings aside, I mean, I don't know what people are really expecting. These are the majority of these games have been out for multiple years that people have got extensive experience on. They're obviously going to play for, as you said, due to nostalgia for a period of time, and then probably drop off again.
Well, people play for the single player.
Yes,
they have these new multiplayer editions and things like that, and support, I guess, that they wouldn't have otherwise had. But I think one of the most popular for multiplayer was Halo 3, and 2. So when 2 and 3 come out, that'll really that'll tell if the game has legs in terms of beyond its single player. Yeah. Not that it needs it. I mean, it's done very well. So
people who like it, good for them. I mean, it's got an absolutely huge community. It just never really for me.
So the next one's Hearts of Iron La Resistance. La Resistance adds secret agents, espionage missions, and new options for resistance movements for Hearts of Iron 4, the popular grand strategy wargame from Paradox Development Studio. Send agents into dangerous territory to decipher enemy secrets or prepare the ground for your invasion by propping up collaborators who will be happy for any taste of power.
Vive la Resistance!
So yeah, this came out just a little while ago now from release of this episode. It's actually sitting at mixed reviews. A lot of people are kind of unhappy with certain things in the game. It takes quite a while to uncover those things, as with Paradox games. That's just the way they work. It kind of takes like a playthrough before you start to realize the flaws and the problems and how you can game things and if things aren't fully well designed. So I don't know much about it. I played Hearts of Iron 4 quite a bit when it came out, but it's not one of my go-to Paradox games. I much prefer personally Stellaris. Even compared to Rome, because I have just terrible taste, I guess, with that one. Yeah, but I really like Hearts of Iron. It's I don't know. It's just like, for me, it just never brings me back, though. I don't know why. It's like, okay, World War II, like I've done it now. I don't know why I feel that way. To me, I've always felt like things kind of play out the same. But it's been so long since I played it. They've added in way more stuff where there's more things called focus trees, where countries can kind of divide and do different things than they did historically. So yeah, just from kind of by proxy, by reading the reviews, it's on mixed. So not too 100% familiar with it, but people are saying like the agent stuff is either overpowered or it's completely useless, depending on which path you take. So I don't know. That's just what I've read about it. So we'll move on from that. Next one.
So A Beautiful Desolation is a 2D isometric adventure game set in the distant future. Explore a post-apocalyptic landscape, solve puzzles, meet new friends and make powerful enemies, mediate conflicts, and fight for your life as you unravel the secrets of the world around you.
Yeah, so this game is just one I've just only picked up myself and had a look at. It's graphically really, really nice. It's 2D, of course, as you read, but it's just really beautiful artwork. And it's called Beautiful Desolation, actually.
Fantastic.
But yeah, it's like another CRPG, but there's no combat, actually. There's no combat. So it's just about the story and going around this like kind of post-apocalyptic world. It's really, really interesting. I watched a little bit on Twitch as well for a while. It looks really good. It's only like £12, so it's probably like $15.
Sounds good.
The next one is Death and Taxes, and this also has a demo if you want to try it out. In this 2D short narrative-based game, you assume the role of the Grim Reaper on an office job. Your job is to decide which people are going to live or die. The consequences of your choices are yours to bear, while the mystery of your incarnation awaits revelation. It's just another one that just looks cool. It was in the new and trending, and it has like really positive reviews. Nice. Had a lot of people playing it. It's kind of a fun, interesting premise.
I don't know anything about it, but it struck me as a bit of a Papers, Please sort of vibe.
Sort of like that, yeah.
That's the sort of impression I got.
And then there's just some extras I thought we'd mention. Obviously, RimWorld Royalty, we talked about that. Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail, that literally just came out today, so no word on that one yet. Tank Mechanic Simulator.
Oh my god, I saw a video of that and I wanted to gouge out my own eyes.
Some people apparently really like it.
People like Train Simulator, Darren. You cannot trust people.
Besiege came out of early access, and then there's two games on the Epic Store. Corruption 2029. This is made by the guys that made Mutant Year Zero. It's an XCOM style sort of game, if you want to call it that, with RPG mechanics as well, where you move around and then it goes into XCOM combat, etc. It looks really cool. I watched a little bit of it. I mean, it looks pretty simple, but it also graphically it looks really nice as well. And then Overpass, which is sort of it's another Epic game. It's kind of a rally game, sort of, where you're driving buggies around dunes and stuff like that. Nice. Looks really nice, though. It looks really good as well. It's quite expensive, though. So those are all the noteworthy releases. So those are just, I don't know, I think it's relevant to kind of talk about the new releases that are kind of coming out. I know we haven't played everything, so we don't have all the information about everything, but it's more just to bring it to your attention. You might like the sound of one of these games, and then you can go look it up yourself as well. And obviously, if we've been playing them, then we can talk about them further. We did have a release here. I need you to read this one. It's tradition. All right, so we do have a special release that I love to hear Toby read these.
This is my favourite segment.
This game is called?
I still haven't decided exactly what voice I need to use for these, but I'll workshop it and
set the tone.
We'll get it down. I want to play some like smooth jazz in the background of this when I read these out. That's what I want.
We could do that. Toby's anime corner.
So this week's anime corner with Toby is Kill or Love. Jack, a man with no memory of his childhood, is stuck in a hospital following a near-fatal injury. How sad. His girlfriend, meanwhile, is being held captive. Oh my god. To make matters worse, Jack's nurse is Anna, the woman who kidnapped his girlfriend and who put Jack in the hospital in the first place.
That does make matters worse.
That makes matters a lot worse, Darren. Anna is obsessed with him to an unhealthy degree, and the answer to why lies somewhere in the past. This short visual novel follows Jack as he makes desperate plans to save the girl dearest to him, and as he remembers how Anna tore through his life.
Well, there you go. That's kill
My
or
God.
love. What are you going to do? Are you going to fall in love with Anna or are you going to kill her?
I'm going to kill her.
The game, again, with all of these, extremely highly rated.
Of course it is.
With many ratings. I think
Is
it's
this
got like
one
700
X-rated
ratings.
as well, or is this just a weird game?
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't see it in the screenshots if it had any lewd photos.
Yeah, because I mean,
in the other ones, it was straight up pornography.
Please tell me this doesn't end with Jack, Anna, and his other girlfriend who they don't name having a three-way, because that made me want to kill myself. I'll lose faith in humanity.
I mean, it's definitely sexual in how they portray the art, but I wouldn't say it's straight up pornographic. But yeah, check it out if you're into that kind of thing.
well, lastly then, Darren, what have you been playing this week?
Yeah, so I've only been playing a couple of games because I've been quite busy, but I've been playing Hell Let Loose. It's after getting a new update called the Road to Karn 10 update. So this game came out about a year ago now, under a year ago, but almost coming up to a year. It's in early access. It's a World War II 100-player, multiplayer-only shooter, and it's kind of like a realistic shooter. I best describe it as a combination of Postscriptum, if those people know that, maybe Squad.
Yeah.
Squad and Red Orchestra kind of meeting in the middle somewhere. So there's these big maps, but it's not as realistic as something like a Squad. It's more like a Red Orchestra, so it's a bit more like flow. In terms of mechanics, it's more like Red Orchestra, but in terms of map size, it's like Squad. You got these big maps.
They seem to have been updating it regularly, because they didn't they have a world like a beach a beach update only a few months ago.
Yep. So every 2 to 3 months, they've been adding a new map, and then every month or so in between, they keep adding like extra just little fixes and features and things like that. So they have this really great roadmap, and this is why I think the game is doing so well and maintaining its player base and just surviving and having a solid player base come back to it regularly, is that they're adding meaningful updates. It's not just like a little bit of gameplay progression things here or there. So basically what they've been adding over time, since it came out, they've added like 3 or so new maps, and these are like massive maps with their own kind of like feel to them. There's been improvements to progression, so they've made an actual progression system now, so you can actually level up your characters, or not your characters, level up your classes. So it's a class-based World War II shooter. There's like 6 different classes. The classes are limited, so you go in with a squad, and there's like one MG guy that can be in the squad. There's one medic, there's one whatever, and then there's a bunch of riflemen. You can take whatever you choose. It's up to your squad leader then to talk to you and basically tell you what role you should take that he needs at the time. You know, you might need a support guide to put down spawn points to help your team spawn in, and things like that. I won't go too in depth with it, but it's really good fun. Obviously, it's based on communication. Like your squad leader can then talk to all the other squad leaders, and then you've got a commander who sits at the top, and he can talk to all squad leaders as well. And he'll ask squad leaders to kind of go to different places, do different things, and also ask them to utilize engineers to build nodes, which gives him resources to allow him to then call in support like strafing runs, bombing attacks, things like that. So it's all heavily interconnected and interdependent on each other. So it's so interesting just to build, like to get a bombing run. It's like, okay, well, I need to phone down to a squad, tell them to get an engineer to place a node. The node needs to be placed when you have a support in there as well, because you need something called supply. So it's just like everything relies on each other. And then you're always pushing and pulling on this front. Anyway, so they've added 3 maps. They've added all of that kind of progression stuff as well, where you can like level up your guys. You can actually give commendations. So if you've got a good commander, you can say, hey, he was great. Or maybe a particular guy was great, and gives them a 10% XP buff at the end. And when you level up, you basically just get like cosmetics. But if you're an officer and you level up, you typically start with like a short range weapon. But as you level up, you'll get a long range weapon to be able to use, which just gives you flexibility. You can switch it whenever you want, really. And what else? I think that's pretty much it.
Cool.
There's definitely one other thing that I can't think of right now. Oh, they've been adding different vehicles, like different tanks and things like that. So it's just it's a really great game. It's hard because obviously you need to kind of play it with people. You need to talk to people. If you really want to get the most out of it. But it's got a really good in-game voice chat system where you can just talk to people around you. You have proximity, so even if you're not with your squad for whatever reason, you can talk to people you're coming up against. And that's pretty much it. That's Hell Let Loose. I've just been playing that since that update came out, and a few of us have been jumping on. And that's the last thing they added, a new game mode. So it's actually kind of like, it's sort of similar to Russian Battlefield. You don't plant bombs, but there's 2 points that they have to capture 2 points before they can capture the next 2, and it just falls back. So typically the mode in the game is more like a tug of war. Both teams start with half the map, and they're kind of pushing and pulling. But this new mode is really just like one team is the defender, and they're kind of pushed all the way back if they lose. And that's essentially it. That's Hell Let Loose. It's really, really good. Worth checking out. You can actually get it pretty cheap around different places as well. But on Steam, it's about $30, I think. But it's been on discount before when these updates come out. It is still early access. Something that they're planning on working on soon is better animations is what they've been talking about. So it's got pretty good animation. Like, things are animated. Things are fine. It's just that things can feel a little bit stiff and janky. And they plan on smoothing that out, as well as, I think, adding an audio overhaul. And that's pretty much it.
Cool.
Before I talk about other ones, we'll maybe alternate this as well. So you can tell me about RimWorld.
So RimWorld is what I've mainly been playing, the royalty update this week, which is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I've got hundreds of hours of RimWorld anyway. I've played it literally almost since it came into early access. Must be 3.5, 4 years ago now, if not even longer. But yeah, so the royalty update basically adds a whole new overarching faction. Obviously, I can't go into the absolute basics of RimWorld. You kind of know, or you don't really. But essentially, you drop to the prestige. You dropped generated world, and you survive however best you see fit. You can do literally anything in the game. You could be a trader, a slaver. You can make combat. You'll face increasing challenges over time. It's a struggle to survive. You've got to grow your own food and all this sort of stuff. In the top-down perspective, royalty essentially adds this overarching empire faction to the game. Which, if you do things for them, they will make one of your people one of them, essentially, and you progress up the ranks from like some sort of like yeoman lord to like a knight to a baron to a count to all these different things, which is fantastic because you get loads of new abilities and they help you and become your allies and all sorts of things. But as you make your little pawn, as they're called in RimWorld, a pawn, which is your person, as you progress them up the ranks, in his desolate wasteland, he becomes more and more needy and demanding. So you live in your little wooden shed, just trying to survive, from a day-to-day life, scratching a living out of the ground. And he's asking for a throne room, and he won't talk to people, and he won't do work anymore because he thinks he's above work now. So he's just prancing around his little throne room, and you're desperately trying to survive, but he is not interested. So there are pros and cons to advancing, but adds a whole lot to the game, and it's absolutely fantastic.
So you mentioned that you play as you said the word "you" a lot.
Yes.
But you don't play as one person. You control multiple, right?
You control the colony via orders of what to do rather than the people specifically. Like you say, I want this area. It's kind of like Dwarf Fortress in 3D.
Yeah.
I want this area in mind. I want this built, and then based on the priorities that you select and the job list, your people will go and do that.
How big have you gotten your colony up to? Is it about size or is it more?
You can get it up to as big as you want until the computer crashes, which is about 150 people.
Right.
But the game is programmed to try and keep you between. There's different difficulties, and the different difficulties have an ideal range. So the average range is like 8 to 15, and if you're beyond that, the computer won't kill them or anything like that, but it will send harder challenges at you designed to knock some people off, designed to kill people off and get it down to the ideal sort of banding.
That's interesting.
But obviously, if you're amazing, you could have 50 people.
Did you make me in the game?
I haven't met anybody in the game, to be honest. I haven't actually been individual and named anyone.
You wouldn't put yourself in it?
No, because I mean it's so brutal, Darren. It's so brutal. I mean,
if someone goes, personality?
I've got a guy with asthma at the moment. So currently, I have some little tribal race who live near me, but are completely under advanced. They attack my like plasma guns with sticks and stuff at the moment. They get slaughtered. They like 50 of them attack and they all get murdered. But one guy was unlucky enough to not get killed outright. He got knocked out, and unfortunately, one of my top guys has asthma, and he needs some new lungs, Darren. And that slave, unfortunately, is not getting any medicine, but his lungs are being taken out. And
really, you can do that?
Oh yes, his organs are being harvested, and they're going to go back straight into my guy that needs them more. That's
pretty advanced lung replacement.
It is, full body replacement.
So the other game that I've been playing is, by the way, that RimWorld sounds amazing. I mean, I played it a little bit, and we played it on stream, and it was really good fun. I've just never gone back to it, though. No excuse, really. I mean, I thought it was really funny. I can't really quite remember my story, but I remember having some woman that was like crazy, and she was trying to kill people, and we locked her in like a room. Anyway, it's just, I can't remember too much about it, but she essentially ended up going outside fighting people. Just wouldn't stop fighting people.
Oh yeah,
and then
ended up a mental breakdown.
Exactly. She was exactly, and then she ended up fighting an animal and getting killed.
Oh, what happened?
And someone was falling in love with her at the same time, so it caused him to really be upset.
Yeah.
He went out there with a gun. We didn't know what he was going to do.
Just went down downhill from there.
Yeah. So it's just those funny little stories.
Yeah.
And especially being the first time playing it, I was like, I wasn't too sure, and I was looking like, why aren't you doing like any jobs and stuff? It's like, oh, she's like a lunatic or something.
It does take some getting used to until you get the systems down.
Well, that's the thing. It's super not user friendly.
No, it's
but
not.
Having a stream behind me telling me like what's going on helps a lot.
The thing is, because I've been playing it since almost day one, so many of the features now weren't in there. They've been added piecemeal over time, so I picked them up in a much easier way.
Yeah. So the next game I've been playing is a game called Tower. I did a video on this one.
I saw it. It was a very good video.
Oh, appreciate that. So this is quite a pretty niche game, so I just decided to do a video on it though because I'd taken some of my time away from me, so I thought I'd get something for that back. But essentially, it's a tower defense game. It's a kind of an indie game. It looks kind of like a simplified graphics, like a voxel graphic kind of game. So it's nothing like too crazy, but it's quite impressive nonetheless. How many enemies are on screen and things like that. Essentially, you've got this world, and it's being captured by this enemy force, and you fight these series of battles to then kind of take back control of the planet by winning these series of tower defense battles. And then as you keep fighting, you build up your tower and build new weapons on it and stuff, and you have this like kind of progression that carries over with you. If you lose, it's not game over. You've lost a little bit of control of your planet, but you can get it back if you win the next few rounds. It's got a really in-depth like bunch of weapons and different systems and technology trees and stuff like that. It's really, really good. It's just that for me, as I said in the video, the world control system seemed to be like really, really easy.
Yeah.
So I never really felt challenged by it. Although there is this like giant boss fight that comes every 50 days. Actually, it's on day 50, then every 25 days after that. And that's actually like really difficult. But you can't do anything there's nothing really you could do to speed up your progression to get better. Like I've been winning almost every fight and I still can't beat it. You just have to wait until you have pretty much all the text and then you'll get it done. Mm-hmm. So it's got really good potential. I'd have a look at it if it's ever on sale, maybe. Because
that's what it looked like to me. It looked cool.
Yeah, it's a cool, fun little game to play while it's on sale, maybe. That's pretty much it for everything I played. What's the last game?
Well, the last mate, as I said earlier, the second thing I've been playing is Division 2 expansion this week. So
worth mentioning really quickly that this is on sale while this comes out. It's like $2 to $3 or pounds on the Epic Game Store. I know it's the Epic Game Store. Yeah. We get it. But I'm probably going to buy it because it's just so cheap. Honestly,
it's a bargain. For £2 or £3 in dollars, it's, if you play it for a couple of hours, you've got your money's worth really, and you will, because it is. I'm not ever say it's a perfect game. I played it when it launched on PS4 for a few months and then dropped it. But it is fantastic looking. It's got a great gameplay loop. It's really satisfying in a lot of ways. So it is worth checking out if you want. For £2.50, I think it is. It's worth having a look at.
So you've been playing the expansion?
The expansion launched yesterday. I've essentially finished it. I've got one mission left to do today, and it was really, really good. So
did you find Aaron Keener?
Aaron Keener he's next on my hit list. I've killed all his buddies, and I'm knocking at his door. I'm ready to go. Aaron Keener's got his days are numbered. So Division 1 was set in New York. Division 2 was set in Washington, D.C. But this expansion is, you've basically been called back to New York with a problem. The fictional agency you work for, The Division, has had a bunch of rogue members who have, doing some terrible things to some, people in New York, and you've come back to save the day. It is really cool, mainly because Washington, D.C. is awesome because you fight down the Mall by the Washington Monument and by Lincoln Memorial. You fight in all these amazing places in the White House that you see all the time. But it all looks kind of one way, and it's very different to how New York looks, which is all completely built up and high-rise and a very different feel. So it's quite a cool change of pace to go back to that. And to be honest, I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like the expansion looks so much better than the base game. It seems like just the lighting's done so well in it. Things like for a big expansion, physically a big expansion game, like area play area wise. Sorry, it looks absolutely fantastic. It's really engaging. I think
maybe they dropped an update as well to improve things.
There was an update too, but I don't know how much that changed or not. I don't know if it's just me, but personally, I think it looks much better. But yeah, the expansion was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. There's loads of bits and bobs to do. It's come on the back of a massive update that's completely changed the entire end game of the Division, added a load more content, changed a load of things as well. So to be honest, I'd recommend, obviously, if you haven't played it before, don't buy the expansion. Don't bother. Buy the base game for a couple of dollars. Check it out, see what you think. And if after you've played it, and played through the base game, then you'll see how you feel. But it's definitely worth having a look at.
I was going to say as well, so you've been playing it on your own.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's still good.
Oh, fantastic, yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I want to play it. Like, I'd rather, because that game looks really cool to me, but the thing that always turned me off is that I'm just not that big of a multiplayer guy.
Yeah.
Like it can be fun when you've got a squad to go in with, but I play games at ungodly hours, right? 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes, and my friends aren't online, so I just like to have games like that. Where
As I was saying to you earlier, I think Division 2 is probably one of the best multiplayer / single player, like the way they're integrated out of any big game like that I've ever played. Because I mean, the whole game is completely doable solo. You don't need to ever see another person. It's a solo experience, but at any time you want to, any mission you start, you literally press one button and it'll match you up with other people around the world if you want to play with other people.
That's cool.
But if not, it never prompts you to, it never directs you to. It is a single player game that can interact with other players if you want to. So it's really, really good for that. So I play by myself, and then when I feel like it, I jump into a random matchmaking with a bunch of other people online, and we'll just have a good time and complete missions.
Sounds good. All right, well, that's going to be it for our episode 3. So we're going to be back hopefully in 2 weeks, and you can get episodes early over on patreon.com/republicofplay. Also, let us know what you think. Your feedback has been super valuable. I think we've, hopefully as well for this episode, cleaned up some of the audio issues, and maybe we're just getting more into a natural rhythm, I think, with things as well, just in general. And hopefully we'll just continue and keep getting better and improve over time, and eventually, with enough support, maybe we'll be able to do it even weekly, and I can pay Toby.
Oh my God!
Thousands of pounds for his time.
Thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a Twitch stream one day as well.
Yeah, no, it'd be cool. I've been thinking of just doing. Yeah, we should play games on Twitch in general. Like, if we have time. Like Deep Rock Galactic has.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that. We do need to get back on that again.
Something I didn't mention, but they've had an update and they're coming out of early access in a few months. Like that'd be awesome to play that game again as well. All right, so thanks very much for listening, everybody. Appreciate all the feedback on the previous episodes, and if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you give us a like. If you're listening on iTunes and Spotify, which apparently we have actually quite a lot of people there, maybe consider leaving a review or something, helping us out, maybe rising it up a bit. I don't really want to promote this podcast until I feel like we're finally like in a good rhythm, we're a little bit more consistent, and we've got the format nailed down, and then eventually I'll start like promoting it in videos and stuff, and it'll really take off, and Toby will become super famous and leave me in the dust. All right, that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.